I think you should read this before you make me leave with nothing." The courtroom fell silent. My husband. Richard leaned back in his chair and laughed. "Your Honor, please don't encourage her," he said. "She's been writing dramatic little letters since the day she realized I was done with her." My hands trembled as I placed the envelope on the judge's desk. Richard smiled at me like he had already won, he whispered. "After today, you won't even have a lawyer's office to hide in." The judge opened the envelope. At first, he simply read. Then his expression changed. Richard stopped smiling. The judge read the first page again. "Mrs. Bennett," he said quietly, "when did you receive this letter?" "3 days ago, Your Honor." Richard suddenly stood. "Wait, you can't use that." Everyone turned toward him. The judge slowly looked up, and in that moment, the man who had mocked me throughout the entire divorce hearing realized that the letter he thought would destroy me might be the one thing that destroyed his perfect lie. Before we uncover what the judge found in that letter, please like this video, share it with someone who believes the truth always finds its way out, and subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories for more unforgettable emotional journeys. And tell us in the comments, which city and country are you watching from? The judge placed the letter on the desk but did not continue reading. "Mr. Bennett," Judge Harrison said, "you seem very concerned about a letter you claim is meaningless." Richard's face tightened. "I'm concerned because my wife is trying to manipulate the court. I almost laughed. For months." That had been his favorite word. Manipulate. Whenever I questioned a missing bank transfer, I was manipulating him. Whenever I asked why he came home after midnight, I was being paranoid. And when I finally discovered he had moved nearly all our savings into an account I couldn't access, he called me unstable. My attorney, Daniel Brooks, stood beside me. "Your Honor, my client received that letter anonymously 3 days ago. We have submitted the original envelope and requested that it be examined." Richard turned toward me with a cold smile. "You actually believe this changes anything?" I looked at him. "No, I believe the truth does." The smile disappeared. Judge Harrison opened the envelope again. Inside was a second sheet of paper. Richard suddenly grabbed his lawyer's arm. "Stop!" "This!" His attorney pulled away. "Richard, what exactly is in that letter?" "I don't know." But everyone could see he was lying. The judge began reading aloud. "Dear Emily, if you are reading this, Richard has already told you that you are imagining things. Please don't believe him. The money he took from your accounts wasn't the beginning. It was the end of something he has been hiding for years." Richard slammed his hand against the table. "This is absurd." Judge Harrison stared at him. "One more interruption, Mr. Bennett, and I will hold you in contempt." The courtroom went silent again. My heart was beating so hard I could barely breathe. The judge continued. "I helped Richard hide the records. I did it because he threatened my job. I am sending you proof, because I can no longer live with what I helped him do." My attorney slowly turned toward Richard. "Who wrote this?" I shook my head. "I don't know. But Richard did." I saw it in his eyes. For the first time in 12 years, my husband looked afraid of someone other than me. Judge Harrison lifted the final page. Attached to it were copies of bank records showing transfers from our joint account to a company I had never heard of. Daniel leaned closer. "Richard, is that your company?" "No." "Then why is your signature on the documents?" Richard didn't answer. His lawyer quickly requested a recess, but Judge Harrison refused. Instead, he looked directly at me. "Mrs. Bennett, before I continue, there is something you need to understand." I gripped the edge of the table. "What is it?" The judge held up one final document hidden behind the letter. It wasn't a bank record. It was a photograph. And the moment I saw the woman standing beside my husband in that picture, I stopped breathing. The photograph slipped from my fingers. The woman standing beside Richard was Laura Bennett, my older sister. For a moment, I couldn't hear anything except the pounding of my own heart. Laura had been the person who held my hand after my wedding. She had comforted me when Richard became distant. She was the one I called when I thought my marriage was falling apart, and there she was standing beside my husband, outside the office of the company where our missing money had been transferred. I looked at Richard. then at my sister. Neither of them could meet my eyes. Laura, my voice barely came out. She slowly stood from the back row of the courtroom. I'm sorry, one simple sentence, 12 years of trust shattered inside it. Richard's attorney turned toward him. You told me this was a business dispute. Richard clenched his jaw. It is. No, Laura whispered. It isn't. Everyone turned toward her. Judge Harrison asked, Miss Bennett, do you know anything about these documents? Laura began to cry. I helped Richard move the money. Richard jumped to his feet. Don't say another word. The judge struck his gavel. Sit down, Mr. Bennett. Laura looked at me through tears. At first he said he was protecting the money from bad investments. Then I found out he was using a company in my name. My stomach turned. You knew? I didn't know everything. Enough to betray me. She lowered her head. Then she pulled a small flash drive from her purse. I received copies of everything. Richard went pale? No. Laura placed the drive on the clerk's desk. Emails. Account records. Messages. Daniel quickly looked at the judge. Your Honor, we request an immediate review. Richard stared at Laura with pure anger. Why now? Her voice broke. Because Emily didn't deserve what we did to her. The courtroom remained silent as the judge examined the first files. Then his expression changed. Again, he looked directly at Richard. Mr. Bennett, these records suggest this was not only hidden marital property. Richard swallowed. The judge paused. There may also be evidence of fraud. Richard's face lost all color, and suddenly, I understood why he had been so desperate to stop the judge from reading my letter. Richard's lawyer immediately stood. Your Honor, I need to speak with my client privately. Judge Harrison nodded. But Richard didn't move. He was staring at the flash drive as if it had become a loaded weapon. My attorney leaned toward me. Emily, stay calm. But calm was impossible. I had spent months believing I was losing my marriage. Now I was discovering that my husband and my own sister had been hiding something far bigger than an affair. After a brief recess, the courtroom reconvened. Richard returned looking different. The confident man who had mocked me that morning was gone. Judge Harrison spoke first. Mr. Bennett, the preliminary review of these files shows multiple transfers through a company registered under Ms. Laura Bennett's name. Richard said nothing. The judge continued. However, the company's digital records indicate someone else controlled the accounts. My eyes moved to Richard. Daniel slowly asked, Who? Judge Harrison looked at one final document. Richard's business partner. Richard suddenly looked up. What? His lawyer turned toward him. You didn't know? I thought he was only helping move the assets. The courtroom went silent. For the first time, I believed him. Richard had helped hide our money, but someone had used his greed for something even darker. Laura stood again. Richard knew about the first transfers, she said. But after that, his partner started moving money without telling him. Richard looked at her. You could have told me. She laughed bitterly through tears. And you would have done what? Tell Emily? He had no answer. The judge ordered a full financial investigation and froze every account connected to the company. Then he turned toward me. Mrs. Bennett, regarding this divorce. Richard finally looked at me. There was no arrogance left. Only, fear, I'm sorry, he whispered. I stared at the man I had loved for 12 years. You're not sorry for what you did. His eyes filled with tears. You're sorry you lost control of the story. Judge Harrison granted the temporary protection of my assets and postponed the final settlement, pending the investigation. As the hearing ended, Richard reached toward me. Emily, please. I stepped back. Laura began crying, but I didn't stop. I walked toward the courtroom doors with my head high. Then my attorney caught up with me. There's something else. I turned. What now? Daniel held up the original envelope. The handwriting doesn't belong to Laura. My breath caught. Then who sent it? Daniel looked toward the empty courtroom and quietly said, That's what we're about to find out. 3 months later, the investigation revealed the full truth. Richard's business partner had used the hidden company to commit fraud, but Richard and Laura had knowingly helped conceal my money. The court ordered my share of the assets returned, while Richard faced the consequences of the choices he had made. The anonymous letter had come from Richard's former accountant, the man who had finally decided that his silence was no longer worth protecting. Someone else's lies. Outside the courthouse, Richard stopped me one last time. "I really did love you," he said. I looked at him quietly. "Maybe you did, but love without honesty is just another kind of control." Then I walked away, not angry, not broken, but finally free. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes the truth always finds its way out, and subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories for more unforgettable emotional journeys. And tell us in the comments, which city and country are you watching from? Because sometimes, the letter that breaks your heart is the same one that finally sets you free.